Shalom, shalom. So we are on part one of Patron client scripts. The last time we went through the introduction, that was two parts. If you haven't seen it, then you can go back and just get a little background. So Patron client scripts 1.1. We're just going to do 1.1 today. Patrons, brokers, and clients. Seneca speaks of the giving and receiving of benefactions as the practice that constitutes the chief bond of human society. So, who is Seneca? Seneca, Lucius Annaeus Seneca, was a Roman moralist, politician, and playwright, born between 4 and 1 BC. In Spain, to an elite family of Italian descendants, he was educated in Rome, spent time in Egypt, and achieved political prominence at an early age. Implicated in intrigue surrounding the Emperor Caligula, he was exiled to Corsica, from which he was recalled by the Emperor Claudius at the encouragement of his new wife, Agrippina. Seneca served as tutor of the young Nero. So we have all this stuff going on in the background. If you know who Nero is, if you know who Claudius is, these people are very important to the Brit Hadashah, New Testament, or Apostolic scriptures. Then, as an advisor during the early years of Nero's reign, opting for retirement after Nero's behavior made his own position at court untenable. Seneca spent his final years writing philosophy, and in AD 65, he was forced by Nero to commit suicide for his alleged participation in the Patron conspiracy. From the account of the Roman historian Tacitus, it appears that Seneca modeled his suicide on that of Socrates, thus turning his death into an act of political theater, celebrating the spiritual liberty of the wise man. His continuing influence on the culture of Rome is attested by the later writer Quintilian, among others. So just wanted to get that background real quick because this is how we actually study the culture, context, and history. So the Greco-Roman world was a patronal society, supported by an infrastructure of networks of favor and loyalty. These relationships were regarded as an essential element of security. Such bonds existed between social equals who called each other friends, and from whom the dictum, friends possess all things in common, holds true. Partners in such relationship exchange favors as needed, with neither party being an inferior or dependent role, being in an inferior dependent role. Such bonds were also forged between social unequals, in which one party was clearly the patron of the other. The relationships might still employ the language of friendship out of sensitivity to the person in the inferior role. Example, when Pilate is called Caesar's friend. Let's take a peek at that real quick. John 19:12. John 19:12. I'm going to pick up at verse 10. So Pilate said to him, "You do not speak to me? Do you not know that I have authority to release you and I have authority to crucify you?" Yeshua answered, "You would have no authority over me unless it has been given you from above. For this reason, he who delivered me to you has the greater sin." Verse 12. As a result of this, Pilate kept seeking to release him. But the Jews cried out, saying, "If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar. Everyone who makes himself to be king opposes Caesar." If we go to the IVP New Testament background, let's just go here real quick. The IVP New Testament by Craig Keener. Craig Keener is one of the foremost scholars on the New Testament. And in here it has friends of powerful patrons were their political dependents, and to be the friend of the emperor or the friend of Caesar was a special honor. Friend of the king had been in office in Greek and ancient Near Eastern palaces, including Israel, from David through Herod the Great. And you can confer 1 Kings 4 and 5, 1 Chronicles 27 and 33. Friend of the emperor was likewise an official title with political implications. As a client of Sejanus, Tiberius, Praetorian, perfect, and most trusted confidant at this point, it is possible that Pilate may have acquired this title. Otherwise, it is intended figuratively. If he was a friend of Caesar, and you understand honor and shame, which is the reason why we're doing this patron-client relationship, you will understand that that would have resulted more likely in Pilate's death. The system did not lend itself to precise evaluations of favors. Such, the mutual commitment tended to be long term. The point of the institution was not even exchange, but ongoing exchange. Mutual bonds of favor and the accompanying bonds of indebtedness provided the glue that maintained social cohesion. In such a society, gratitude becomes an essential virtue, and ingratitude, the cardinal social and political sin. This is the world where Paul was operating. This is the world that the Jews were operating in under Roman control, even though they allowed them certain rights and the right to do their own religious thing and to not pay taxes. There's still a whole lot of things that they had to deal with, especially in the diaspora. In a world in which wealth and property were concentrated into the hands of a very small percentage of the population, the majority of the people often found themselves in need of assistance in one form or another, and therefore had to seek the patronage of someone who was better placed in the world than himself or herself. Patrons might be asked to provide money, grain, employment, or land. The better connected person could be sought out as patrons for the opportunities they would give for professional or social advancement. One who received such a benefit became a client to the patron, accepting the obligation to publicize the favor and his or her gratitude for it, thus contributing to the patron's reputation. The client also accepted the obligation of loyalty to a patron and could be called upon to perform services for the patron, thus contributing to the patron's power. The reception of a gift and the acceptance of the obligation of gratitude are inseparable. A third figure in this network of patronage has been called the broker or mediator. Your mind should be connecting verses in the New Testament, Brit Hadashah, Apostolic Scriptures. I call it the Apostolic Scriptures, so that's what I'm going to go with from here on out. But whatever you choose. So this mediator acts as patron, but his or her primary gift to the client is access to more suitable or powerful patron. The second patron will be a friend in the technical sense of the broker, a member of the broker's family, or the broker's own patron. Brokerage was common and personal in the ancient world. In the letters of Pliny the Younger, Cicero, and Fronto are filled with these authors' attempts to connect the client with one of their friends or patrons. Pliny's letter to Trajan, for example, document Pliny's attempts to gain imperial, how you say it? Beneficia for Pliny's own friends and clients. Pliny asks Trajan to grant a senatorial office to Vocanius Romanius. He addresses Trajan clearly as a client addressing his patron and proceeds to ask a favor of Romanius. So if you see what's going on here, you have this individual who was the friend of another patron who was trying to bring a client to another patron. So Pliny offers his own character as a guarantee of his client's character. And Trajan's assessment of the secondhand client is inseparable from his assessment of Pliny. Trajan's favorable judgment of Pliny, not Romanus, is the basis for Trajan's granting of this favor. Such considerations in the patron-client exchange have an obvious corollary in the church's Christology and soteriology, wherein God, the patron, accepts Christ's clients, i.e., the Christians, or I know everybody is stuck on the Hebrew word, so Messiah's clients, those who are believers in Messiah, on the basis of the mediator's marriage. So let me read that again. So let me go back to Trajan's favorable judgment of Pliny, not Romanus, is the basis of Trajan's granting of this favor. Such considerations in the patron-client exchange have an obvious, say it one more time, corollary in the church's Christology and soteriology, wherein God, the patron, accepts Christ's clients, he accepts Christ's clients, the Christians, on the basis of the mediator's merit. Within these webs of patronage, indebtedness remains within each patron client or friend to friend relationship. Woo, a lot of big unnecessary words in here, but it's it's for us to understand. Maconius Romanius will be indebted to Pliny as well as Trajan, and Pliny will be indebted further to Trajan. The broker or mediator at the same time incurs a debt and increases his own honor through the indebtedness of his or her client. Brokerage occurs also between friends and associates in private life. A familiar example appears in Paul's letter to Philemon, in which Paul approaches his friend Philemon on behalf of Paul's new client, Onesimus. If you consider me your partner, welcome him as you would welcome me. Please just stick with us, because as we get through the rest of these, so we have grace and patronage, then we got faith and patronage, and then we have patronage and salvation in the apostolic scriptures. Faith and patronage, when we start looking at the words that are used in these relationships, even though we do word studies in Hebrew and in Greek, it always has to be placed within its proper context. Shalom, shalom.